Welcome to the Level Up podcast presented by The Ultimate Gamer, a show that features conversations with the trailblazers, thought leaders, risk takers, decision makers, celebrities, athletes, and investors who are defining the gaming and eSports space. On Level Up, we take a journey into this dynamic industry and start to decode and reveal who and what's making news. It's about connecting, and it's about sharing the stories and vision of the people who make gaming and esports a global phenomenon. As we do in every episode, we'd like to thank The Ultimate Gamer as the visionary and catalyst behind Level Up. The Ultimate Gamer is an esports and gaming, entertainment, technology, culture, and lifestyle organization with the intention of discovering the best gamer in the world. Connecting and celebrating gamers and gaming is at the core of The Ultimate Gamer's mission. And now, please welcome your host, student of the game and connector to the esports community, Tommy Knapp.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tommy Knapp, and this is an all-new episode of the Level Up podcast presented by The Ultimate Gamer. On today's show, I have a conversation with Derric, famous Franklin, famous GM and head coach of the NBA 2K team, Heat Check Gaming. He was the very first black leader in the history of the NBA 2K League. On a rain-soaked morning, Famous and I discussed the life-changing decisions that paved his path to the NBA 2K and Miami's Heat Check Gaming. From the birth of his daughter, which shook his world and made him reflect on his future path, to his military tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and finally, his first meeting with Pat Riley. Famous's journey has been decidedly unique. Although we've known each other for a couple of years, today's conversation taught me a lot more about the man beneath the purple afro that helped make him famous. Famous is a leader, a coach, and a loving father, and he understands that his experiences have laid the foundation to prepare him to be his very best at each. Lace up your Chuck T's or your Air Jordans and grab a seat courtside. It's time for our Chalk Talk with head coach Derric. Everyone knows him as Famous, Franklin.
What's up, man?
Nothing much. Alive. All I got is
Dude, are you getting crushed by the rain right now like I've been for the last 2-3 hours?
Yeah, I'm just like, my computer's right here by my balcony, and I always like looking out the balcony. Just sometimes I get lost looking out the balcony, and rain. Sometimes that rain look, that wet surface look, it's kind of appeasing.
Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying. Like calming, relaxing, serene.
Yeah.
There's those Zen gardens. In the Far East, there's those Zen gardens, and they have those really smooth rocks, and when water runs over them,
yeah,
very calming. Yeah. Actually, it's pretty interesting. Do you guys do any of that with and again, this is just free flow, right? We're just talking. So with the team, do you guys incorporate any of that into what you do on a normal basis, that mindfulness practice or meditation or relaxing or breathing, any of that kind of stuff?
It's funny because my boss asked me, did we need that? This a couple of days ago, actually. Right. Just out of nowhere, she asked me that, and I was like, I'm not sure yet. We might need it. And she was like, let me look into it. So it's one of those things where it is something that's different for not only me, but it would be different for our players as well if it does come into play.
Where do you think that, for her, where do you think that came from? Like you said, you've been in this now for over 2 years, right, with the Heat Check. And in this, I don't know if it's come up in the past or now it's just because we're talking about it and it's really on top of mind. But why do you think she brought it up to you like the last couple of days?
Because we're in different circumstances right now with COVID-19. Our players moved down here to Miami early March, and we literally been inside for 2 months at this point. She's just trying to think outside the box right now. She's trying to open up these guys' heads and relax them a little bit. So it's weird. It's weird that you brought it up because literally, probably like 2 days ago, she asked me about it.
That's interesting. Well, you're going to have to look into it now, probably.
Oh, without a doubt now. Without a doubt, because somebody's talking to me now.
Right, exactly. So kind of talk a little bit about that as far as the players coming down and the experience that they have and how you brought them down. Obviously, we've known each other for a couple of years now, and I want to talk a little bit about the difference between being the head coach slash GM, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the head coach, because you're putting the team together, and what like Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley are doing on the NBA side, what the difference is, and then like your living quarters, because to me that was fascinating when I first met you and learned that the guys were all living together down there, and I think Coral Gables, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So yeah.
So with a lot of, when I came into this, I had no idea how to build a team, how to run a team. All I literally knew was 2K. I just knew 2K, and as I got adapted to the Miami Heat a little bit more, I kind of just started following like Pat Riley's and Spoelstra's philosophies, just randomly. Like I would hear rumblings about, oh, Pat does this and Spo does this, and I'm like, maybe I should probably look into this type of stuff, and so that's where a lot of my thinking comes from. There's a saying that the Miami Heat way is this, the Miami Heat way is that, and as a year or so passed, it's like, you know what, you are the Miami Heat way. You are this, you are that, and that's what Heat check gaming has become. These guys, we talking about 6 players that's from all over the world, essentially, and they come down to Miami. Some of them, like last year, I had players that was 19, 20 years old, and these people are moving for the first time. You know, they've been living with their parents for all their life, really. And so when you take these players out of their element, out of their environment, and you move them to somewhere foreign. Some people have never been to Miami. My first time being in Miami was when the Miami Heat flew me down 2 years ago. So this place was foreign to me.
It can be a shock, right?
Yeah, it's really a shock, because even though I'm from Houston, I've lived in when I was in the Army, I lived in Kansas. But when I was going to school, I lived in Indiana. So these are rural Midwest areas. And then I come out of Miami, and I'm like, you know, I'm like super, super shocked as culture shock. So I can only imagine how this was for players that as young as 19, 20 years old to come down to Miami for the first time and realize that this is where I live now. So so back to the Miami Heat and stuff, and building these teams and stuff. So I adapted Pat's philosophy. Just, you know, what was so eye-opening for me was the first time that I met Pat Riley, and he goes, and I'm like, oh my God, you're Pat Riley. And he goes, oh my God, you're famous enough. And I'm like, yo, like we're on 2 different platforms. We're on 2 different platforms.
Yeah, but that's super cool, right? Because he made it very human, and probably took a lot of that anxiousness away for you.
Oh my God, without a doubt. Like I was super starstruck. I'm super starstruck, and I'm just staring at him, and all I keep saying is, "Oh my God!" And Pat's telling me all about my season 1 high win and everything, and I'm like, you know, I'm like super shocked, but you know, that's one of those things that does make it human. Like this guy is human. This guy is, even though he's an icon, he's a legend, he's a Hall of Famer. You know, he made me seem like that we're on the same playing field, we're on equal footing. And that's one of the dopest things about the Miami Heat. I can walk into the arena and I don't think anybody in that arena, maybe a couple people in that arena knows my real name, but everybody just calls me famous. So so that's one of those things where it's like, you know, I am Heat Check Gaming. I am what I created this culture for Heat Check Gaming, and you know, and those philosophies do derive from Pat and Spo.
There's a couple things I wanted to talk about. And first is, like, it's got to be more, I don't say more challenging, but to find the talent for you, like with Spo and Pat Riley, the players are coming up through college, and you see them on TV, and you have relationships with these other coaches at the universities. What you're finding as far as your talent is challenging, right? Because that doesn't exist yet. I mean, I think there's going to be it's going to be in place soon, and colleges are starting to build out teams, not so much in 2K, but in League of Legends and Overwatch and these other titles. So how do you go about finding that talent? And it's got to be a massive challenge for you.
I believe like a couple years ago, Adam Silver said something about the NBA is a 365-day sport where there's so many levels of, you know, you got the games, you got the playoffs, and then you got free agency, then you got the draft, and then you got the summer league, and so everything is just flowing all year round. But for me, when it comes to 2K, it's the exact same way. So we have our season through I think the players move in around March. Then the season's from April to August. After August, the playoffs end in August. September, a new game comes out for 2K. So when that new game comes out, I'm sitting. I play the game when it first comes out to get a feel for the game, to understand what my players should be able to do, what they shouldn't be able to do, what kind of expectations I can have for certain player types and stuff like that. And then I just start watching more games. So the amateur scene for 2K for us is really, really big. A lot of people don't understand it, but for us it's really, really big because these players are playing. They probably start their playing time around 8 p.m. and it probably doesn't end until about 4 o'clock in the morning. So leading up to that, I'm watching all those games, as many as I can around that time, and then going into, I want to say, November is a qualification process for us. So these players have to win a certain amount of games or with a certain amount of win percentage to go to the next point, which is the combine. Combine is just like the NBA. They got to play on different teams with different players that they've never played with before at a certain time frames and time slots. And so I'm watching all this, and these time slots sometimes are very brutal. You might have a 8 to 12 a.m. time slot, which is normal, but then you might have a 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. time slot. Because they gotta. With 2K, we got to make sure that not only the North American players have a time to play, but we got to make sure that players in Europe, players in Germany, Australia, New Zealand has a time to play as well. And we don't want those players playing at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So we have these time slots that's like 2 a.m. or 6 a.m. to appease to those guys and players over there. That's normal time frames for them. And so we watch a lot of the teams and players, GMs and coaches. We watch those combine games. Combine is about 3 weeks. Then we go into the selection process where players are picked from those combine stats.
So D, how does somebody get selected to go to the combine? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that process itself. Do you guys select them, or is there a wider qualifier or tournament that they go into? And how many are at the combine actually?
So the qualification process that goes first, that's the first part of it that happens around November.
And that's global.
That's global, yes, correct. So everything's online. So everybody's you just load into your 2K Pro-Am or you go to the Jordan Rec Center, and you have, I think this year was win 75 games and with a 75% win percentage or something like that, maybe 50% win percentage. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay. And so that, like in season 1, when we had that process right there, it was 75,000 players that advanced from that part to the combine. Wow. And season 2, it was drastically cut short from 75,000 to 7,500. And when we talk about these numbers as big as this, you're like, wow, that's a low number, but it's also a big number. But we got to get from that number of 75,000 in season 1 or 7,500 in season 2 to 150. So it's extremely cutthroat when it comes to this. So it's based off of advanced analytics, what these players' stats and how they compete in their win percentage in the combine. But it's really cutthroat. It's extremely cutthroat, and this is the league trying to get the best of the best players that competed in this combine.
That's been quite a process, obviously, over the last 2 years. So it's still, so for going into year 3, it'll be 7,500 again.
We already did season 3 one, but I've never got the numbers for season 3. That's why I'm not necessarily sure. But to me, as I'm watching the combine and looking at the wait times that players are having to get into a game, it seems like it was around the same number of around 7,000, 7,500, something like that. With season 2, season 1 rather, players would leave one game in the combine and be able to get into the next game immediately. So you can tell that number was super high. Right. But season 2, you can tell it was low, and season 3 as well, you can tell it was low.
And how much time do you actually spend like analyzing, critiquing like a game, or and is it one-on-one, like it's me against you? Is that what the combine is? It's one-on-one, or are they playing in a team like 5v5 format?
They're playing in a team 5v5 format. So the only the only way that I'm able to actually watch these combine games is somebody is broadcasting or streaming it on Twitch or YouTube. So if they're not broadcasting it on Twitch or YouTube, then I'm not able to see them. So I encourage a lot of players to try to broadcast and stream, just to be seen. So we want to make sure that these players are out here doing everything they possibly can to be seen. So I encourage them to do that. Some players don't do it for whatever reason. Maybe they don't have the capability to stream and broadcast, and that's fine. But you're still being evaluated on the game from your stats and your advanced analytics standpoint.
Hey, can you tell, like, right away, a lot of times, can you just tell, if you and I walk out and we see LeBron on the court or we see, Steph Curry, there's certain guys, especially if they're on a playground, that are just going to stand out immediately, right? You're going to know. Is it the same way in 2K? Can you tell, like, if you throw somebody on for 1 minute and you've got 10 guys out there on the court, you can say, I can tell that one guy right there, I want him as my power forward? Yes,
without a doubt. That's the cool thing. For 2K is not like a hard game to play. It's not really a hard game to play. All you got to do is give your time and effort, and you'll get better over time. But in the same sense, you can tell there's a skill gap from one player to another. You can tell if a player is ready for our league or not just by watching 10 minutes or so, like you said. If I just stumble into a stream and I see – and the player doesn't even have to score. He can be doing all kind of little things, boxing out. Something as small as a power forward or a small forward that's guarding the corner and not actually in the action, that's boxing out from the corner. You're like, I need that.
That's that's the fine details of knowing the game, right?
Yeah. So you can obviously definitely tell if a player is ready for our league or not, for sure.
That's great. That's great to have that. I too. So how does that combine then go into the draft? Because one of the things that I thought was so cool, and you told me, and I can't remember what the name of the player was that I met 2 years ago, but I was thinking about the draft, and these guys, I think he was 18 years old. I'm not sure, but when he was in high school, and he never went to college, but when he was in high school, he was probably thinking, because the NBA 2K didn't really exist as far as professional league goes at that point, about becoming a pro. Most of the guys that are playing in the NBA today, if you look at the traditional game, like they're playing in high school, they're getting drafted, or they're getting recruited heavily in college. They play at college, whether it's 2, 3, 4 years, then they're getting drafted. And they know, and they're prepped, and the people around them know, and they have a whole, crew. The NBA 2K is a little different that, right? A lot of these guys, in the experience that guy had, I imagine talking to him and saying, that's got to be so surreal. One day you're sitting on your couch, you're good at, 2K, but you're just sitting there playing. The next day you're in, where was it, Madison Square Garden? Where was the draft held? And then you're being selected by the Heat check. That's got to be
It's wild. It's wild because even when I started my journey, when I was, building my brand, my famous enough brand and everything, there was no NBA 2K league. So I was doing it just because I love the game and I love the mode and whatever. And there was no, oh my God, if you make it here, you've made it type of thing for me. It was just, I'm just going to do this and see where it goes. So for those players, our players have been playing 2K competitively for years and years and years. Like you said, this 18, 19-year-old kid that was in high school just all of a sudden makes it to the NBA 2K league that didn't exist a few years ago. And it comes from like our amateur tournaments and leagues that we have. We're talking about every week, a week or two or something like that. These guys are playing for pots that are $10,000 to $20,000 a pot, and so if these guys are winning these multiple pots a month, they feel like they are one of the best players on 2K at the time, So that's where that comes from, where these guys are continuously playing and getting better and getting better and getting better because they win a lot of money at such a young age.
That's interesting you said that. So do they have the ability, now they're on the Heat check, they're part of your team, they're paid a salary, they're working for the Heat, they're representing that brand. Do they still have the ability on the side to play in those tournaments if they want to and make money that way?
So the players' contracts, there's no multiple-year contracts right now. So every contract is 6 months, and that 6 months is just basically the duration of our season. Once that contract ends or the season is over, the league sends the players emails like, okay, now you guys can compete in these tournaments and leagues during the off season, yada yada. Third, in a season, they pretty much can't put on another jersey virtually. They can't go play for an amateur team. They can't load up and play, pay for any money on the side. They have to be out of season or their contract has to be ended.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that, and that's one of the big differences, obviously, between 2K and the NBA. Because in the NBA, you've got a great player, you want to lock him up for multiple years.
You don't want him to get hurt. You don't want them to do anything extra on the side. And it's so funny because in season one of my players, we lost the game. One of my players got mad, and he kind of punched the chair or the wall or something, but it wasn't one of those I'm so mad, I'm raging, bomb, I'm gonna put a hole in the wall type thing. It was just one of those little taps on the wall like that. And as soon as he did it, I said, please tell me you didn't do that, and I looked at his hand, and his hand was just swole. I said, dude, the playoffs start next week and your hand is swole. He's like, oh my God, I wasn't really thinking, yada yada. And I'm like, this is the most valuable part of your body right now.
Yeah.
This is what we pay you for right now.
Yeah.
And now you can miss the playoffs. Luckily, the swelling went down within a day or so. And I'm like, dude, I had to have a meeting with the guys. And I'm like, do not do anything dumb that's going to cause your hand a problem,
Right.
So it's so weird when it happened. It's so weird thinking back on it now because I'm like, I really put so much emphasis on this guy's hand over him,
Right.
him. But at that point in time, all I'm thinking about is playoffs, finals, champion, type of thing. But now, I always try to make sure that the players that know that. Not only are they human, but I am also human as well. So I try to take the pain and the ease off from being so rough or strict about the gameplay and the game and stuff like that, and make sure that hey, we're friends. I can't do this without you, type of thing.
Yeah, but they've got to understand that their eyes and their hands. I mean,
most valuable. Yeah,
it's most valuable. It kind of reminds me when you said that. Have you ever seen the movie Zoolander?
Yes.
Zoolander, there's the guy who's a hand model, and he's got his hand in a glass, a chamber. You should have your players walking around with those so that they understand they can't mess around with their hands and their eyes. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I kind of really wanted to – we jumped right into where you are today. But you could tell us a little bit about the famous brand, how that came about, and a little bit about your military history.
Cool. So – starting with my military history, I wasn't one of those guys that was in high school and was like, I'm going to join the Army when I hit 18, yada yada type of thing. I was one of those guys I was from Houston. I was born in a bad neighborhood, so I wasn't thinking necessarily at the time, oh my God, I got to get out of here type of thing. I was thinking about I got to be able to make it to this age. I got to be able to make it to this age. Wow. And then I met my daughter's mom, and She kind of changed my thinking. She kind of changed my thinking about everything. I ended up moving up to Kansas. Her dad was in the Army, and I ended up moving up to Kansas, where her dad was stationed at, where she was stationed at. We got our own apartment and stuff like that. Shortly after, she became pregnant, and I'm like, oh my God, my dad wasn't always around for me, so. How I don't know anything about being a dad or being a father or being raising kids and all like that. So how am I going to do this? And then my daughter was born, and life changed. Life changed. Everything that I once knew about life and growing up was gone, because now I'm in this different phase where I got to show her the right way to grow up, and so one day randomly I was working at Walmart or whatever doing overnight stocking. And I randomly just broke down, and I was like, you know what? I want better for her. I want better for my daughter. I don't want her to have to want for anything. So next morning, I went to the recruiting station. And it's one of those things. It's so weird because her dad, my baby mom's dad, he was a sergeant major in the Army, and he had this really high ranking. But he wasn't one of those people that's like, I want you to join the Army type of thing. He never spoke on it at all. But I knew that the quickest way for me to change my life totally around was to make sure that my daughter had benefits at least. And the easiest way to do that was for me to join the Army and give her those benefits, because I had nothing. I literally had nothing. When I moved to Kansas, I went up with a duffel bag, and that was it. So thankfully, her mom was able to get most of the stuff we needed for our place when we first moved in, and I was able to help along the way. But joining the Army was a shock for me. It was super shock for me, and it wasn't something where it was like I made a wrong decision. It was one of those things like, I can't believe I'm actually here.
D, when was this? When was this, D?
This was 2008.
Okay.
2008. 2009, 2008, 2009. Now my daughter, when I left for basic, my daughter was 6 months old. Okay. So that's how I made this decision. Really, really, as soon as literally I saw my daughter, and I'm like, something got to change,
Right.
And I made a decision out of nowhere. And when I told her mom was like, "Are you?" She broke out crying. It wasn't one of those crying like, "No, I don't want you to do it." It was like, "Are you sure that you want to do this?" And I'm like, this is the easiest way for us. This is the easiest way. And I go to basic, and I'm crying every night to sleep at basic training because I'm away from the one thing that I love more than me. That's my daughter, and I can't talk to them every day. I have to send letters home, grateful letters. I talk to them once a week for maybe 2 minutes on a payphone. And it was extremely difficult. It was hard. But after basic training was over, after AIT was over, I go to my duty station, and now I have I did end up marrying her. I had my wife and my daughter, and then they're like, "Okay, you're back home with your wife and daughter." A couple months passed, and like, "You're deploying to Iraq." And I'm like, whoa. This is not what I was looking for, but I knew it was a possibility. I knew it was part of the job. And it's the first day that I get to Iraq, and I'm unpacking my stuff, but at the same time, I have my laptop open, and I'm on Skype with my daughter and my wife at the time, and boom, there's a mortar attack. I'm 25 years old at the time. I have no clue what a mortar attack is.
Right.
I have no clue what anything going on around me. And it hits maybe 50 yards from my living quarters, and as soon as it hits, the internet gets knocked out, and I'm like, I'm in tears, and the only thing I'm telling myself is, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. Right. I look at my laptop, and the Skype call is disconnected, right. And I'm trying to load the Skype back up, and no, it's not happening, because whenever mortar attacks hit, the camp cuts off the internet services, so there's no communication back with home.
Outside,
so
right.
just in case, Lord forbid, that you do get hit,
right,
and your family's trying to call you, and it somehow connects, and you're there.
Yeah, dead. You don't want to be. Yeah, you don't want to be alive. Yeah.
So it's cool. It's a crazy feeling. I deployed to Iraq, and I deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan. And both were totally different experiences, but both was life experiences that I didn't know that I needed. Right. In the same sense that I joined the Army for my daughter, I got out of the Army for my daughter as well. But before I left to Kandahar, Afghanistan, me and her mom was going through a divorce, and they was living down in Tampa, and I was still in Kansas. And I came down to visit my daughter for about a week or so before I left to Afghanistan. And when her and her mom dropped me off at the airport, my daughter's crying, and she's like, "Dad, I don't want you to die." I'm like, "What do you mean?" My daughter's like 4 at the time. I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, on TV, when somebody goes to war, they die. And you're going to war, and I don't want you to die." And for me, that's like a shock for a 4-year-old to know what's going on over there, just to have some type of concept of what it is. And right then and there, I told myself, okay, this is it. This will be my last deployment. I won't re-enlist, and I figured out. But man, I had no clue what figuring out meant at that time. Yeah. So I go to Afghanistan. I'm there for about 8 or 9 months. I come back, and I start my process of getting out. And when I get out, I move back to Houston, and I start going to school. And I have no clue what my life is going to entail. I have no clue that what I'm going to do with my life. I had no clue what was next. And but I was going to school for marketing, and at the I wanted to get my degree in marketing, but I wanted to get my master's in analytics. And one of the best analytics program in the United States is in Indiana. So I decided to try to move to Indiana early before I finished my marketing degree, bachelor's degree, so I can become a resident. I can become a resident of Indiana and not have to have these fees and these out-of-state fees and stuff like that that associated with it once I go from a master's program. Then all of a sudden, I started I was so in tune with 2K that I wanted to. I felt like players that play our game mode, because there's so many game modes on 2K, but our game mode is one of the least popular ones, which is Pro-Am. And I felt like players that played that, they put all these hours of work in, but they wasn't getting the notoriety that they deserve from being just great 2K players, And so I created this Famous Enough brand, basically saying, you're famous enough being who you are.
Right.
That was in my mind. That was the tagline. I never said it to anybody, but in my mind, that was the tagline, that I don't have to be somebody else. I'm famous enough being me, right. And that's what I wanted the players to understand, that you putting this work in, but you're famous to us. You might not be famous to everybody on the outside world or past this game mode, but everybody that plays this game mode knows who you are. And so I started the Twitter for it. 0 followers at the beginning. Nobody really knew who I was. I played 2K a lot, but nobody. When I started Famous Enough, it was another new name that nobody had ever heard of, and I just wanted people to come to that Twitter not knowing who I was, but also knowing that this is somebody that I should be following because this guy's keeping up with all of our games.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like going to Twitch streams or whatever and watch the games or whatever. Games were over. I post the screenshots of the box score on Twitter and tag the players, like this player did this game, this player did this game. And as it went along, when I got 100 followers, I was like, oh my God, this is picking up, Then 1,000 followers came, and I'm like, yo, this is taking off. And so when I had 1,000 followers or so, I started YouTube. And basically it was like a Pro-Am Sports Center. It was a sports center based on 2K. It had the whole format of a Pro-Am. When the first Pro-Am Sports Center look was like this yellow and black box display. It wasn't the prettiest thing, but players appreciated it. They was like, if I play good, I'm going to be on Sports Center type of thing. And it was one of those things that picked up. Oddly enough, one day, this YouTuber, he had maybe like 300,000 subscribers or something on YouTube. And, I knew who he was. He went by the name of Kuda the Kid or something of the sort like that. And super professional looking videos that he used to put out or whatever. But I wasn't following him. He wasn't following me. And he randomly DMs me because my DMs were open at the time. And he randomly DMs me, and he was like, "Hey, I was watching Sports Center today, and I decided to make you this theme for your YouTube videos." And it was basically the whole entire Sports Center layout, where it had the topics on the side, it had the ticker at the bottom,
right.
And he made this for me. And he was like, if you want it, you can have it. Don't worry about anything, yada, yada. I'm like, yeah, I want this. This looks way better than what I did. So when I put that out on the video, it just took off. It took off, I was getting about 1,500 views of video or whatever, and these people loved it. And then I switched this look and whatever, and got deeper and deeper to the community, and the community started following me and wanted to be a part of what I was doing. Those views started shooting up to 10,000 views, 20,000, 70,000 views at times, and I was just somebody that just created something out of the blue because I loved it. Right. And at this time, I have my girlfriend. I think we was together at the time for maybe a year, maybe 2 years or so. And, I'm putting so many hours into this. I'm going to school, putting hours into this. and then later on down the line, I have a job. I get a job, so I have a relationship to maintain. I have a school to maintain. I have a job to maintain, and now I have this 2K thing to maintain. But she tells me at the time I was still trying to play 2K as well. She says, you know what? I don't mind you doing this famous enough thing, but you got to pick one or the other. You can't play the game and try to keep up with all this famous enough stuff. And I'm like, I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, sometimes I feel like I'm getting the small end of the stick of this. I'm not giving her this attention that she needs. And I understood where she was coming from. So for me, it was like, what's the best option for me? Is for me to keep playing the game, which at the time there was no 2K league or nothing like that. It wasn't even announced. Or was it more beneficial for me to keep up with the players and the teams and keep building this brand? For me, it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer for me to keep up with the brand and keep building it up. So I essentially stopped playing the game. I would play the game maybe once a week or something like that. Maybe once a week or something like that. And sometimes not even playing it at all. But we go for my birthday. I created Famous Enough October 2016. Mm-hmm. For my birthday in February 2017, she had booked this trip to New York or whatever. I had never been to New York and nothing like that. She had never been to New York, and she booked this 1 week trip to New York. And she was one of those outlandish people. She had this whole itinerary set. We're gonna do this day. At 2 p.m. we're gonna do this, and the third. And I'm super. I try to say I'm organized, but I'm super unorganized. So when I see it, she gives me this calendar thing,
right?
Yeah, and she was like, "So we're gonna go to bed at this time. We're gonna wake up at this time." And I'm like, but she was like, "The only caveat is that while we're there, you can't be on your phone." And I'm like, "But I do this 2K thing. I keep up with all these players." She's like, "Yeah, but those players, they can go a week without having you. You can, this is my time. You can't be on your phone." She said, "Well, I say this, before we go to bed, you can check your Twitter. You can do this, whatever you have to do, and then put your phone back up, and you can't check it again the next morning." I was like, "Okay, fine, perfect." So we're doing all these activities and stuff in New York, and I'm like, we're ice skating and all this other crazy stuff, and shopping and all this stuff like that, and ironically, my birthday, the night of my birthday, February 7th, going into February 8th, I'm checking my Twitter. Midnight hits, and it's like this stream of everything popping up. NBA and 2K merges to create their own eSports league. I'm like, whoa, this literally came out of nowhere. This came out of nowhere. It's all on SportsCenter. ESPN is reporting it, and it's on Forbes, and everything's like that. I'm like, this is like, and the community, our little small niche community is going crazy because we want info. All we know is that this league is coming, yada yada. Just that eSports league, and we're like, oh my God, we're gonna do something. But in my mind, I'm not thinking about being a part of it. I'm thinking about I'm about to blow up on YouTube. I'm finna have this amount of subscribers, because this is all I know. I've been covering this for so long. I've been covering this thing and keeping up with it. I know all the players, and my SportsCenter videos are about to take off. And so I get back home, and I'm just that's all I'm thinking about. Content. Keep pushing out more content to build my brand up and push the best players out there. And summertime comes around, and I'm like, and it hits me. I'm like, I don't want to create content for this. I want to be a part of this. I think I'm one of the people in this community that know every single player, every single team, and I can offer a team a lot. I applied for the Kings job. Then I hit up after I applied for the Kings job, I tag in. I think at the time I had like 5,000 followers or something like that. I tagged Andy Miller, co-owner of the Kings, and NRG eSports founder or CEO. I tag him in it because I know he's a big Twitter person. He's an eSports guy. So I tag him with the hashtag hire famous, yada yada. And so he gets flooded. He gets flooded with all kind of tweets and stuff coming from my following. Everybody, hire famous, yada yada, this, that, and the third. And he randomly DMs me after like 10 minutes, and he was like, you're really popular, you know. He was like, did you apply for the job? I was like, yeah, I applied for the job. And he said, cool, okay, cool. I'm gonna have somebody from the Kings reach out to you. Probably 10 minutes after that, somebody from this burner account DMs me and it's like, what's the name did you apply under? Yada yada. I work for the Kings. We're gonna pull your resume and we're gonna take a look at it. And like this, I didn't know what a burner account was at the time. I had no clue what that was. You know, the whole KD thing had just surfaced or whatever about him having burners and stuff like that. So I wasn't really in tune with it, but there was this random account asking me for my first and last name and they're a Kings employee. And they told me their name and I looked them up on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And so I tell them my name and I get a call, I get an email probably like 2 weeks after that or so, you know, saying that they're gonna send up an interview or whatever, a phone interview, yada yada third. I do the interview, I thought I did well, stumbled over one question, it was about sponsorships. And you know, I'm a new guy to the scene of esports, I guess you want to say, and I don't really know how big sponsorships are for esports. And you know, they asked me about sponsorships, and I gave a great answer. You know, I'd say, you know, I'm not really in tune with sponsorships right now, but with the back end of the Sacramento Kings, I feel like we can get any sponsorship that we go after. I was like, boom, question answer. You know, I'm like,
check
boom, you
mark.
Yeah, like question answer. You know, that's a great answer. And so. They probably like a month later, after the interview, they said we'll keep in touch, we'll get back with you later. A month later, I get like an email saying that, you know, they're moving on away from me, that they feel like candidates were better suited for it. And, you know, for me, for all that I had put into 2K at the time and my following and everything that I was doing, it was a stunner for me. You know, I was like, you know, maybe I'm not good enough to run a team. Maybe I'm not who I thought I was, you know. But my girlfriend
let me ask you a question there. When you went for that role, what was the title? What was the role that you were going for?
It was general manager. It was general manager of the team.
So the expectation at that time was that the GM wouldn't just put the team together and also coach, but that they would also be involved in bringing in sponsors.
Yeah, correct. So you know, I thought after they told me that, got the email, you know, I sent an email back asking, you know, what happened, what can I improve on, yada and third. And the guy told me, you know, sponsorships literally. So at the time, I felt down and out. I was like, I'm not going to do this famous enough thing anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore because at this point, that was an end game. End game is now the 2K league, and now I've been turned down for the one that I thought I had, you know, even though that was the first one that I applied for. In my mind, I'm like, this is mine type of thing, you know. The community is like, oh, famous got this type of thing, right. You know. So everybody's pumping me up, and I'm pumping myself up, and I thought I had it. And then I'm like, ugh. So I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, took the wind out of your sails. But I got to admit, like that's what you see sometimes. It's a brand new league.
Yeah.
You definitely would not expect Pat Riley to be the GM and the head coach. You wouldn't expect Spo to be the head coach and the guy who's VP of sponsorship. You know, like when you bring in somebody. So that's when you're bringing in somebody and they've got to be well-rounded. If you're an organization like the Kings, you've got to look at that and say, okay, what they probably did and said, what is most important to us?
Yeah.
And at that time, maybe it was bringing in the money, bringing in sponsors, maybe was more important than bringing in a good team. I mean, I don't know, but that's a lot to ask for from one individual in a league to come in, put a team together, be the head coach, and then also drive sponsorship as well. So, and I don't know if anybody had that conversation with you when you were going through that mentally, because you're kind of like, I've got this role, it's locked up. And like you said, everybody that's following you does too, because it made sense. You're endemic to the space. You probably knew it better than, I mean, I don't know who the candidate was that got the job. Maybe they're still there. Maybe they're doing a great job. But that's that experience, and then understanding what you went through and what the league is going through itself to kind of build it out. And I'll mention that again, because like with the Florida Man, I had a conversation with Ben Spoont the other day. And when I first met Ben, and he, you know, was CEO of Misfits Gaming. And I was coming from the Marlins, and the Marlins org chart is like there's a CEO, and then there's a president, and there's like 5, 6, 7 vice presidents, directors, then managers. And so you look at the org chart, there's 225 people there. And same thing with the Heat, right? But then when you go to the Misfits Gaming, it was just Ben. He was the CEO, and he had these teams. But at that point, this is like 2.5, 3 years ago, there was nobody in sponsorship. There was nobody in sales. There's nobody in marketing. So you have to build that whole thing out. So obviously 2K is going through that same thing. And so your one role, which probably should have been GM or GM and head coach, which you can't cross over, also turned into sponsorship and probably a number of other things.
So that's the crazy part, because mentioned Ben, and Ben's such a quirky type of guy. Like it's so hard to understand if he's happy or he's sad, he's mad, because his facial expression doesn't change. His facial expression doesn't change, But when I went after the Kings thing, I told my girlfriend that I don't want to do this anymore, and she gave me this weird analogy. She's like, why would you build a house? Why would you build a foundation for a house and just leave that foundation there and walk away? And at the time, I'm like, yeah, you're right, but I have no clue what she's talking about. But as time went along, then I kept coming back to that, and I was like, that's right, because anybody can go back and finish the house once the foundation is up. And I was like, I get it now, type of thing. That was like months after, but I had already started back doing the famous enough stuff and doing the YouTube videos and stuff like that. But it took me a couple months to understand what she was talking about.
And that's a lot of the hard work, right? That's what they always say, laying the foundation. That's the hardest work.
Yeah. So this Kings things happened in August of 2017. January of 2018, I'm still applying for jobs or whatever, and I get this random DM from Ben Spoon. Ben Spoon. I'm following Ben. Ben's not following me. And this random DM, and he's like, "I need to talk to you." And he says, "Send me your phone number." And he says he gives me the email address. I email him my phone number. And I'm waiting. I keep going back to the DM to read it again, and I go back to the DM, read it again. And probably like an hour passed by, and I DM Ben back. I'm like, okay, I sent you my phone number, and at the bottom it just says read. He doesn't say anything to me. I'm like, this guy's weird. I'm like, this guy's weird. So I go to work the next day. And I come home. Ben calls me about 3:00, and it's one of those calls where it's like we're talking. We're talking for like 40, 50 minutes, and I'm not realizing that it's an interview. I'm not even realizing it, but we're talking and we're laughing, and Ben has been super informal. Like this is my first time ever talking to this guy, and we're having this conversation that's going miles past eSports, past 2K, and he goes, wait a minute, what teams are you talking to right now? And I tell him about 4 or 5 different teams, and it's funny because when he asked me this, I get an email from a team. It's a rejection email, and I'm reading the email while I'm on the phone with him, and I'm like, dang, type of thing, and then and Ben goes. And I don't tell him I just got a rejection email, my spirits are still super high, and I'm still laughing with him. And he goes, well, I'm going to get you on the phone with a Miami Heat executive. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, I go, we hang up the phone or whatever. He doesn't tell me when, he doesn't tell me a date. I get an email the next morning, and it says so-and-so at Miami Heat. At heat.com rather. And I'm like, I stretch back, and I'm like, I'm at work, and I was working at the airport or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna happen, and they asking me, when can I talk? And I'm like, whenever, I get off work at this time. They say, okay, cool, can you talk today? I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can talk today. So they give me set up a time, whatever, and as we start the email process, and I'm at work now. It's like about 4 or 5 different names on it that's CC'd on the email. And so I get on LinkedIn and I start looking up the names or whatever. The name that stood out the most was Michael McCullough, the chief marketing officer of the Miami Heat. And so I'm like, let me check him out. So I'm looking at it, reading all this stuff about him or whatever, and I'm like, whoa, this guy's the man. This guy's the man. He did a lot. And so they called me later that day, and the main person that's talking is Michael, but I can instantly tell that there's about 4 or 5 different people in a room with him. And we're going through everything and we're laughing or whatever. Again, it's like one of those. It seems super informal, but I know it's a different tone from Ben to Michael when it comes to this. And then Ben Spoon, he taps into the phone call, and it's like it's a party now. It's all these big high profile people on the phone with little me. And Ben tells Michael, he's like, this is the guy. And this is the guy, and like I said, the first time I was talking to Ben was the day before. So Michael tells me that we're going to keep in touch with you. We feel really good about you, but we'll keep in touch with you. I've heard that before from numerous teams that keep in touch, or we'll get back to you. Man, we'll talk to you in a month or so. So that was Monday. I talked to Ben. Tuesday I talked to Michael. A day in between passed, no communication. Thursday morning, I get an email from the Heat. They were saying, "Can you talk today?" Tell them, yeah, same time as last time. They called me and they literally offered me the job over the phone. Michael said, "We don't normally do this. We like to bring people in. We like to meet them. We like to see them. We like to see how they are in person. But we feel super highly of you, and with so many teams after you right now, we feel like the best thing for us to do was to jump on this right now." And it was like, well, we can send you a contract information, your salary information right after this call. And it really happened that fast. Three phone calls in 4 days. The 4th day, I'm getting an email from HR about salary and all this other stuff, and basically congratulating me on joining the Miami Heat. So
but that's because you created that foundation, you created that brand, and then it was ready. It just needed the right timing to kind of happen, and that was the right timing, and that was 2.5, 3 years ago. And again, it's kind of interesting to me because when they're coming after talent to be a GM and a head coach, it didn't exist before.
Yeah.
So the skill sets and the talent that they're looking for me, I'm sure there's some soft skills in there. I'm sure it's just you understanding and knowing the game. And some of it would probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, but probably comes from having the content side, right? Having a following, having an audience.
Yeah, so that was the cool thing is that they mentioned every little thing that you just said. They mentioned all that, But one of the things that they mentioned even more was my military background. I was a sergeant in the Army, and the first thing that in the Army you have so many people that comes in and out of your unit all the time, and there's so many different personalities, and you have to adapt to every personality. And that Michael said, this is going to be something where we're going to have 6 players move in that haven't been together at all. They don't know each other, probably the first day away from home, and we need somebody that's going to be able to handle all 6 personalities. And they said your Army background is what stood out. And so, everything in life, everything in life that you go through in life, eventually is going to come back down the line as a skill. And, at the time that you're going through this, you don't realize that this is an actual skill. And at the time when I was in the Army, I didn't think, I got all these soldiers, yada, yada. I got to talk to this person like this way. I got to talk to this person this way. Everybody got to talk to different. I never thought about that at all. I just did it because that's what I was taught. And so now when Mike was telling me, about this, I'm like, you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right that you have to be able to talk to everybody differently and being able to handle different personalities with this. And as I went through this is my 3rd year now, 3rd season rather, and it's 100% true. Like there's not one person the same. There's not one person the same. And I would joke with one player, but I know that I can't tell the same type of joke to another player because, different background, different upbringings, different personality, and it might just make somebody mad if I tell the same type of joke to that person. So it's a dope experience. The Heat flew me out like a week after that to come to Miami. I filmed a short introduction video saying that I joined the Miami Heat, yada yada third. Posted it on Twitter, like 120,000 views on that. Which was wild, which was super wild to me. That was probably my biggest view thing ever, was me joining Miami Heat or whatever.
And that a lot of that's because of their machine, right? Like they put it out there.
Well, they actually gave the video to me to post.
Okay.
They gave the video for me to post, and I posted it, and
it just went viral.
It went viral. I do want to say that they did retweet it. I do want to say no. The Heat Check Gaming page retweeted it, and not the Miami Heat page. Okay. And so so it did go viral in our community. Like the developers from 2K and the community managers from 2K, they all stepped in, congratulated me and stuff like that, which was really really dope. Dope experience. A month later, I was moving to Miami. Like a month later, I moved to Miami. Moved to Miami February 2018. The draft was in March of 2018. April of 2018 rather, that year. And so everything moved fast. Right. Everything moved fast. It was like boom. They moved me in. I was staying in a hotel for a month, and then we had to go find a place to live. Me and the Miami Heat, we had to find a place for me and the players to live at. We had to go get furniture for the players, and this is all with me trying to prepare for a draft. I'm trying to prepare for a draft. I got to do interviews. I got to look over game tape. I got to look over this, look over that. But now all this gym side of everything is kicking in. Where you got to prepare for a draft. But with it being an eSports league and it being basically a startup company, you're everything. Yep. You're everything. You go find a place to live. You got to go do this. You got to go do that. You got to make sure the players have these computers. You got to make sure that all of this is in play. All this is in play, and I don't have a lot of time. I have a month. I have 1 month to prepare for this, to do all this, and I got to make sure I have a decent draft because the season's coming up. So all this stuff at the time when this is thinking back on it now, to then I'm like I did a lot in a month. I did a lot in a month. I did a whole lot in a month, and that season it started off super slow for us. But eventually we ended up making it to the finals. And me making it to the finals, I went against the Knicks, and the Knicks coach was somebody from our community as well, which was somebody from the 2K community as well. Some teams went up to eSports people, that did understand sponsorships and stuff like that. And they didn't make it to the finals like us, but them understanding sponsorships did work out for them because they already had relationships with different brands and stuff like that when it comes to eSports and stuff like that. So they knew who to go to, they knew who to talk to and stuff like that for sponsorships. So sponsorships part for us was handled by the Miami Heat. Right. So I didn't have to touch it. And that was one thing Michael would harped on, like, you won't have to worry about sponsorships. That that's not going to be something that's in your job title. We'll take care of all that. We have professionals to do that or whatever, which was cool. But going along, as time went along, the years passed. I started understanding sponsorship pitches and how to reel sponsors in and stuff like that. So